Okay, welcome everyone. This is our third episode from the podcast Unvaccinated and Healthy. And today we have a great guest. She's going to introduce herself. We have Stephanie Brail with us. She's from the USA, and she's also an amazing person that I met thanks to some activities related to the pandemic, related to documenting several aspects of it. So Stephanie, thank you very much for being here. And first of all, well, thank you again. And I don't know if you can introduce yourself, talk a bit about who you are, what you do.
Yes, I am a writer. I have a Substack, which I will pitch. It's holistic with a W, holistic.substack.com. And I'm also a holistic health practitioner. So I am board certified in Ayurveda. I also have additional certifications in everything from sound healing to Reiki to herbalism. So I come from the perspective of the holistic side of things. And on my Substack, I write quite a bit about the pandemic and what's been happening with the vaccines. But I also sometimes talk a little bit about culture and talk a bit about the medical establishment, because I feel there are many problems going on with that beyond just the vaccinations. So that's just a little bit about me, and I'll let you continue.
No, amazing. And the first question that I need to do, because of the purpose of this podcast, is to ask you, are you vaccinated? Did you take the jab?
I have not been vaccinated for COVID. I have had other vaccinations. I am not 100% anti-vaccine, so there's a kind of a misconception that everybody who hasn't had the COVID vaccine are all anti-vaxxers. And I would have to say that I've had an interesting evolution on the whole vaccine question, because I got chronic fatigue syndrome when I was 17 years old, and then I wasn't sure what was going on with my body. So I didn't get a vaccine for like 30 years. I wouldn't get the flu vaccine. I wasn't sure how I would react to it. And I got a little bit afraid of them. And then before the pandemic hit, I had another illness that happened that they still don't know what it was. But I ended up, long story short, a completely unrelated accident happened where I got hit in the head with a golf club. And I had to go to the emergency room, and they had to, do a CT scan, and they of course had to give me a tetanus shot. And I was pretty scared at that point. I was like, oh my goodness, what's going to happen when I have the tetanus shot? Am I going to react to it? And I didn't have a reaction to it at all. So after that, I actually got caught up on some vaccinations that I hadn't done in like how many years. And I was okay with all of them. I even got hepatitis A and B vaccination, which is like 3 different shots. And my nervous system is pretty sensitive, and I was actually okay with those vaccines. Then in December of 2020, we did not have a vaccine for COVID. We still had the Delta variant running around. I was concerned about what might happen if I got COVID, because I have this weird chronic illness. I was concerned about my parents getting COVID. I live with my father and my stepmother, and they're baby boomers, they're seniors, they're in their 70s. So this was before the vaccines came out. And at that time, everybody was hopeful that the vaccines might work. And we were a little cautious. I remember having conversations where we were saying at dinner, well, we'll wait and see. We don't want to be the first people to get these vaccines, because who knows? So anyway, what I had read at the time was that the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine actually seemed to offer protection against severe COVID. And they had done a number of preliminary studies on this. And I think the MMR vaccine, by the way, is very controversial. That's the one that has some possible connection with autism that they apparently covered up. Cheryl Atkinson covered this on her website. So in children, MMR vaccine might be maybe not advised. I'm not a doctor. I'm not here to advise I'm not giving any medical information. That's my disclaimer. However, as an adult, I thought, well, if this might save my parents from dying of COVID and might save me from, whatever, let's all get the MMR vaccine. So we did. My parents got the MMR vaccine. I got the MMR vaccine. And but I did have possibly a very common known adverse reaction to the MMR that I didn't know about before I took it. This is known. It's on the CDC website. They know that this is common. Women who get the MMR vaccine will often get arthritis in their hands afterwards, maybe elsewhere too, but specifically in hands. And I had a little bit of that when I was waking up as I got older, but after that MMR vaccine, it got really bad to the point where I went through all these tests. I didn't connect it to the vaccine at first. I got tested for everything from gout to arthritis to rheumatoid arthritis, had my hands x-rayed. I had, they tested me for carpal tunnel, so I had an EMG done in both of my arms. That was, everything was normal. They could not figure out why my hands were hurting so much. And then, I don't know, maybe months and months later, I looked on the website and I found out, the CDC website, found out that this was a known side effect. Now, fortunately, it goes away after about a year usually. And so mine has actually gotten better. But that, in some ways, might have saved my life in that after that happened, I kind of was like, maybe I need to be more careful with vaccinations because I had that reaction. So, so at the time when the vaccines first came out, we didn't really know, right? And I was actually kind of cautious and not really crazy about getting the vaccine for COVID. But of course, my parents did get vaccinated. And of course, there's all this pressure to get vaccinated. So I was almost at this point where I was like, you know what, maybe I'll just take the Johnson & Johnson. It's a one-off. And it doesn't have that mRNA in it, which I was concerned about. So maybe I'll do that one. And I was literally just like almost at the point where I'd broken down and I'd gotten it. And then all the news came out about the blood clots. And I was like, whoa, not going to do that. I'm on HRT, bad idea. So I didn't. And then I wrote something about, well, I'll get into that in a second. But that's basically the short version of what
it seems, Stephanie, and thank you. It seems like you've done your work in terms of you have actually read about it. You have your own story on health. You seems like a woman who is actually looking for how to take the care in the best way about your parents, about other people. And how do you feel when someone, just because people like you ask a question and they want to see everything binary, which seems you are pro everything or you are pro the other thing? And it is just like, no, I'm not anti anything. I'm just questioning this specific thing. How have you felt all this way that people tend to label people that ask questions as anti something?
Yeah, that's a very good question. It has been very eye-opening and challenging. And although both sides do it, although I do think the pro-vaccine side is worse in that they're trying to force everybody. So anytime there's somebody who's trying to force you to do something and then they have the power of the government to do that, or the power of a big corporation to force that on their employees, that's obviously a lot worse. But there definitely is a lot of black and white thinking that I think we do need to be careful of. I know there are people who've had bad reactions to vaccines and had something horrible happen to their children, and they're like, I'm never touching a vaccine ever again. And I don't blame them for that. I personally think that there's some vaccines where it might be worth it. Tetanus and polio, maybe the two that I might say, I think those might be worth whatever risk. It depends though. See, this is the thing. Everybody needs to do their risk evaluation, and if we have more information and we're kind of clear-headed about that, we can do that. I feel like I have sometimes disappointed my readers because I'm not out of the gate anti-Novavax, for example. Novavax is a protein subunit vaccine. It does not work like the mRNA vaccines. It doesn't work like the viral vector vaccines. Those are the Johnson & Johnson, AstraZeneca. Those are viral vector. Both the viral vector and the mRNA vaccines tell your body's cells to produce spike protein, and that spike protein is then attacked by your immune system. To me, there's an obvious reason why that might be problematic. The Novavax vaccine works by collecting spike protein. Yeah, it's a kind of a crazy story because they infect the moths with the virus, and then they take the spike protein out of the moths and they put the spike protein in, yes, some lipid nanoparticles, which everybody freaks out about. there are some concerns with lipid nanoparticles, don't get me wrong, but it depends on what the lipid is. I don't want to get too technical. Anyway, they take that spike protein and they put it in your body, and that's it. Your body's not producing spike protein. Once you clear that out, you're done. So will Novavax turn out to be safer? That's my prediction. And I've been following it. I've been following VAERS reports on that and trying to do some balanced reporting so that the people who say, oh, look, you're just an anti-vaxxer across the board, that you can't really say that about me because I'm not. I'm trying to be as objective as I can be, even though I do have biases. I also think that it's important that we have alternatives to mRNA. And if we come out of the gate and say, oh, no, here's an alternative to mRNA, but it's just as bad because of this, that, and the other thing, and we don't actually look at it objectively, we're really closing the door on maybe getting the possibly, well, based on the data, the mRNA vaccines are probably the most dangerous vaccine, maybe the mRNA and the DNA, most dangerous vaccines ever put on the market for the public. And for me, the more that I learn about them, the more I'm like, maybe we need to not use that technology in that way. So in order to stop that, we do need to have an alternative for the mainstream people. The mainstream people aren't going to go, oh, okay, fine, no vaccination whatsoever. They're not going to go for that. So am I hopeful and a little biased in the hoping that we have an alternative? Yes. But that doesn't mean I'm a Novavax shill. I don't get any money from Novavax. I don't have any stock in Novavax. I don't, it doesn't really, that's not my issue. But I really would like, I'd like to have a little bit more nuance in the conversation sometimes, rather than having fear and panic on both sides. Because when we have that fear and panic, we can't think anymore.
Yeah,
I
totally.
know what that's like.
Totally. And I mean, I think we are related to that in the sense that if the data shows something works, okay, it works. But if the data shows it kind of works, we say, okay, we will see if it actually works. But if the data says something don't work, well, we say it don't work. It is not about an ideology. It is not about your beliefs or my beliefs. It is about the facts, about the data. And so for me, it is also been kind of very disappointing when someone tries to see everything black and white and just to say you are anti something or you are pro something. No, we are thinking people. We love to learn, we love to read, we love to make questions, to ask questions, to ask profound questions. And so during the pandemic, which has been a health kind of challenge for you and your family, how you guys have done related to health? How have you been your own health, your parents and your family? Those who are vaccinated, those who are not vaccinated. What can you tell us about that?
Without getting into any specifics, I can say that I have definitely seen some alarming, possibly coincidental things happen in people that I know after getting vaccinated with mRNA. Potentially life and death things that we'd never be able to prove. And it is very heartbreaking to me and personal, and it fuels a lot of what I do. I don't write about it because I have to respect the privacy of the people involved. But it is very upsetting, and to think that the government doesn't want to even do any sort of honest investigation of these problems and then lecture us about public health and safety is infuriating. So that's all I can say about that. And that also does drive my desire for a safer alternative, something safer, because here's the thing. I think there's a lot of people, not a lot, but well, some who are able to be 100% anti-vax. They are in a situation where they are not around people who are pro-vaccinated, or maybe they cut ties, maybe they didn't want to, but the ties are cut, and they don't have a job where they need to be vaccinated. They're not around vaccinated people. And I think it's a lot easier to be 100% I'm never taking a vaccine again, and nobody else should. In that, if you're in that position, I'm not in that position. The people that I know who believe that the vaccines are good are, and there's nothing I can say to them. I can kind of talk quietly a little bit, but I have to be very careful because otherwise I'm going to come off like a nut job, right? so they are so invested, particularly the baby boomers that I know, the seniors. They're the ones that are highest risk of COVID. And I do think COVID is real, but that's another thing. I think it was a bioweapon, whether it was released purposely or not, or accidentally, that remains to be seen. But they are at high risk of COVID. The people that were really dying of COVID were the seniors and the elderly, right? So those are the ones who are terrified of dying of COVID, right? And they will demand vaccines no matter what.
Yes.
So they need safer options. So that's my feeling.
Yes. And in your case, you have your own amazing health story, and all the things that you've been through related with these illnesses and so on. And when the pandemic started, and it is kind of a novel virus, a novel disease, most of the people who have had an history of illness, then they say, oh, I am the one who is at risk, so I should do this. I should do what I've been told to. But in your case, it was different. In your case, it was, okay, let me check the information about it. I know my body, I've worked with my body. So what was your decision process in order for you to say, I'm taking this path, not the mainstream path?
There was just no way, after seeing some of the videos, particularly there were 3 women early on who had massive neurological reactions to the mRNA. And I have some systemic nerve damage that I'm still dealing with. It's not that bad. It's just my sensory nerves are damaged and my vagus nerve is dysfunctional and I have POTS. So, but I suffer from it daily still. I wake up and my nerves are vibrating and my stomach's vibrating and I have really weird symptoms and I have chronic vestibular dysfunction and it's awful. So when you have something like that and you see somebody who's just taken a new vaccine technology and they're doing that, I'm like, no way. and let me tell you, that is probably an immune reaction. When I first got this really bad, whatever it was, in 2017, it was like food poisoning or something. I don't know what it was. I was in and out of the ER with these symptoms. And I remember there was one time I went to the ER because I was having these nervous system symptoms. They put me on a drip. I started to shake and vibrate like that. And they were going to get an MRI of my brain. And I'm like literally like this in the wheelchair as they're pushing me around the hospital to go get the MRI. It's scary as hell. It's not fun. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, honestly. And so as soon as I saw those videos and it reminded me of what I went through, I was like, no way. I'm not risking that. So on the other hand, I was worried about getting COVID as well because I was still fighting off whatever this was that they didn't diagnose properly. And I'm living with I moved in with my parents because I was sick, and I'm living with my parents who believe in the vaccine. So what did I do? I isolated. I have literally isolated since, well, we were actually down in Florida when it hit. My parents have a small home in Florida that they would go to in the winter. And we saw this COVID thing starting to ramp up, and we were like, oh, hell no, we don't want to be stuck down here. So we packed up the cars and we went back up to Maryland in a panic in the middle of March of 2020. And I've basically been here ever since. I don't go, I don't have a social life. I don't go out, but I have been busy working on my Substack. I've been working on writing a book. We're off the Chesapeake. They're in a nice area. I can go out in the back and kayak. So I'm actually in some ways like somewhat content in that this has given me a time where I can actually focus on my healing and not feel this pressure to go out and try to be social when I'm still dealing with vestibular problems. And then when I got really bad vertigo in September, I couldn't go anywhere anyway.
Oh, totally, totally.
So
Yes, and
it's
I think maybe you will agree with this that the pandemic has been a great opportunity for people like us to get to meet each other. It is kind of a global family, all around the world. We are the crazy ones that took another path, but we are healthy, we are okay, we are developing another, I don't know, products, strategies, services, generating ideas, and many other different things. But this is the other reality. So, do you think that it is kind of an era of discovering your new family worldwide? Not only new friends, but it's kind of worldwide new family.
Yes, actually, yes. That has been one of the blessings of my being isolated. I have done way too much video conferencing, but I have made friends all over the world. I have a standing invitation to go visit Pakistan. I don't want to go back to Pakistan, but
Okay.
I have met a lot of people, and it's kind of funny because I was always an oddball. So, and for like almost 20 years, I lived in Los Angeles, and I never felt like I fit in there. And I always felt like kind of lonely, and I also never got married, which is a whole other story. But not that I would have liked to, but it just always looking for love in the wrong places. So I just never felt like I fit in, and somehow maybe it was just that I needed to expand my reach and just meet more people in other places. And so in that respect, I have friends that I talk to all over the world, and I have a good support system, and I don't really feel lonely. Am I getting stir crazy? Not that much, but I'm also 52, and when I was in Los Angeles and single, I ran around like crazy. I went to all the bars, I went dancing, I did all this stuff. Even though I had chronic fatigue syndrome, I didn't want to be left out, so I would go dancing on a Friday night, and then I'd crash all the next day just so I could go out and be with friends. And I never drank or anything like that, but I just like to go dancing and be social. And I just feel like I've done that, and where did it get me? so, so, so right now I'm doing online classes. I'm getting certifications. I'm studying. I'm writing my book. I'm doing my Substack. I have a lot of stuff going on. So you can feel sorry for me up to a point, but then up to another point, it's not too bad. That said, it's kind of getting to this pressure point where I might have to make a decision about whether I might need to take the Novavax. There's no way I'm going to do mRNA. And it's because of the situation where I'm with my parents, and I don't think I can isolate for the rest of my life. And am I going to move out? And if I do, but they're going to need me as they're at that age where they're going to need me in order to be able to be there for them, but also be able to live my life. Am I going to make that compromise if it's safe enough? I mean, there's always a risk whenever you take a vaccine. There's never 100% safe vaccine. So I've been eyeing the VAERS reports really, really meticulously to see the kinds of reactions people are having, and then weighing and also meditating, because I do just sometimes make decisions based on what I get in meditation, whether or not that would be worth the risk for me of being able to actually go and have a life again.
Yeah.
And for some people that might feel like a betrayal. For me, it's like I you're not in my shoes, and there's other things that I can't tell you that if I think I told you, you would understand more fully. So it's a very difficult decision. And part of it too is like, I don't want to give in to mandates and pressure. You know what I'm saying? Like, if they weren't putting all this pressure on it, it almost would be less of a, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Totally,
the
totally.
very fact that you're trying to force me to do it, I feel like I shouldn't do it. Does that make sense?
No, totally,
So
totally.
that's where I'm at.
No, but even with all the problems and all the issues and all the situations that we, the people who didn't take the jab, have been through these 2.5 years, I think more than 2.5 years, would you say that you are healthier and more resilient than before?
Can you repeat that last
Oh,
part?
yes. Will you say that thanks to all these challenges you've been through during the pandemic, Will you say that you are maybe even healthier and more resilient than before the pandemic?
Well, yes. Although I was not healthy when the pandemic started, so I can at least tell you it hasn't made me. For the most part, it hasn't made me worse.
Yeah.
But I have a special case. I have a weird case too. Not to go out because I could ramble on it for hours. So interrupt me, please. But I have one of those cases where I go to the doctor. They look at me. I look pretty healthy for my age group. And then they do all the tests, and all my tests are pretty much normal. And I'm like, but I feel like crap. Well, your tests are normal. You look great. You sound good. what's the problem? So, other than a couple little things, like they definitely knew I had vertigo. They knew that was real. And I did have a spinal tap done in May, and my spinal tap showed that I have systemic inflammation going on, but it's not multiple sclerosis. They don't know why I have it. Maybe I'm just fighting something off. It's non-specific, and they just kind of shrug their shoulders and go, yes. Oh well. And I'm like, yeah, but that finding is telling you that I'm not making all my symptoms up in my head, that there's something that's aggravating my nervous system, and they can't fix it. So I have been exploring alternative medicine, and that's helped a lot. But alternative medicine isn't just you give somebody a pill and then they're fixed. Alternative medicine is a lot of trial and error. It might take a while. Certainly, it might be overnight. I've heard stories of people who had faith healing done where they were instantly cured. I'd love to have that happen. It hasn't happened yet. So I don't say it couldn't happen, but I'm peeling away layers of onion layers to get to that, and that's a whole other conversation. But the Western model doesn't really know how to deal with that sort of thing. They just want to give you a shot or give you a pill. They don't want to look at any other aspect, and then bye-bye.
No, totally.
Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah, and thanks to there are several factors here. One is your own personal story on health. Another thing, it is the family, how your family have lived through all this madness. The other thing, it is what has been happening in each country, because in each country and different states in each country, it's been different. And so it's been kind of an opportunity to observe the society all over the world, and to question if I'm living in the right place, if is everyone crazy? Am I the one who is crazy, or what is happening? So the question, integrating all these aspects, is what do you consider are the most important things that you have learned, maybe about yourself, maybe about the world, maybe about life during this madness that we've been through?
Well, since you brought up different countries, I just found out today that the United States still has a ban on unvaccinated people traveling into the country, as well as Canada, China, Iran, North Korea. I mean, seriously, it's like a lot of bad countries on that list. And I believe that the United States is a very sick country. I mean that on multiple levels. We are sick spiritually, first and foremost, but mentally, emotionally, physically. We have a very unhealthy culture. We have a very unhealthy populace, and we have very unhealthy leaders who really are not inspiring people to be the best that they can be, but they're fostering division and hatred and angst and all sorts of awful things. So how do you fix that? Is it even fixable? I don't know if it's fixable on a grand scale. We're dealing with media conglomerates that are outright lying and spinning things in a way that hide the truth, that also foster the division. We have television shows that focus on lowest common denominator. So there's a lot of gratuitous violence, gratuitous sex, gratuitous tackiness, gratuitous materialism. We have an inability of both sides. In the U.S., it's right versus left or red versus blue or whatever. But neither side can talk to each other. So, families are divided. If you're on one side or the other, you could end up somebody blowing up at you and saying, I don't want to speak to you ever again over whatever political thing right now. It's a horrible, toxic environment in this country. I hate it. Honestly, I hate it. I'm like, what am I doing here? Why is it like this? I feel like I am living in an upper circle of hell. Everybody's gone insane. I really do. To be honest, not everybody, but it is a horrible, 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 horrible environment. If you want to get into the woo-woo-y, the energy is bad. It's bad juju, bad mojo, bad all around. So I don't have a gazillion dollars to put out a television network that brings light and love and sanity to the country. And I can't force people to watch stuff they don't want to watch. I can't force people to read my stuff or think. I can't force people to learn how to think. And I don't want to force anybody to do anything, because I'm ultimately not about force. I'm a voluntarist, really, at heart. So all I can do is try to create my own little corner where it's like, I don't even want to say I'm sane, because I'm crazy in my own way, but there's crazy and then there's cray. Right? So yeah, I'm a little bit crazy, but I'd like to think I'm a good-hearted kind of crazy. And here's my perspective, and here's some positive things too. In fact, I just wrote a long post on my Substack last night, because I spend so much time on my Substack and I don't earn a lot from it. And I'm like, it would be great to make a living at it, not have to worry about other things, in terms of trying to bring some money in. So I thought, well, how can I bring some value to my readers? And also, they have a lot of other Substacks they want to subscribe to, like Dr. Malone's Substack and Steve Kirsch or Glenn Greenwald or Matt Taibbi or whoever it is. And so I decided, you know what? I'm a yoga teacher, or at least I used to be. I'm going to put up some yoga videos, some Qigong videos. I'm going to put up things that I wanted to do before the pandemic hit. This wasn't my goal, to be writing about horrible government tyranny, medical tyranny. That wasn't my live stream. Someday I'm going to grow up and I'm going to write about medical tyranny. wasn't what I wanted to do. So I decided to put out positive things too, and I just started to do this. Here's a yoga video that can help you. It's in a chair, so if you're not feeling well and you need to do some exercise, here's something that you're not going to see at your local yoga studio. Here's some information that might help you. Just balance out some of that negative with some positive. But we've got to do our own little corner of it. And I have kind of given up on saving the world or saving the planet. I'm just kind of okay, let's kind of get a lifeboat. I'm just going to try to put as many people in the lifeboat as I can, and then we'll try to rescue ourselves. And if other people want some help, we'll try to help them. But it's going to take a miracle to turn the United States around. I think at this point we're headed toward a civil war, and then there's a whole global financial collapse that's probably going to happen in the next month. So yes. Things are we're one of those dark points of history, and COVID kind of kicked it all off, didn't it?
No, totally. By the way, we are going to put the information about your Substack in the information of this episode of the podcast, right? But please, people, follow the Substack of Stephanie. Hopefully, you're gonna get more subscribers also, Stephanie. But yeah, the other thing it is that because we hope to have an increasing worldwide audience for this podcast, it is that people in each country, I'm going to explain it this way. The echo chamber of the people who only listen to what they hear on TV and on the radio and on the news, it is kind of an echo chamber of one reality. And they don't know almost anything about the things that we are talking about on this podcast. I've talked to people that they almost don't know anyone unvaccinated at that level. They think that if you are unvaccinated, you must be dead. But the truth is that more than 30% of the population worldwide are still unvaccinated, more than 30%. So it is a huge number. So the purpose of this, it is also to kind of raise awareness of this other side of the story. So related to the country and so on, we are in Mexico. One of the things we in Latin America do, it is to look up to other countries, the world leaders in Europe, the USA, what you guys are doing, for saying, okay, we think those guys know what they're doing, so we must follow them. But thanks to this experience, now we are saying, no, we must not follow them. So it has been kind of a crazy thing to know saying, okay, what is the USA doing now? What are in Europe doing now? What are in Australia and Canada doing now? Don't do what they are doing. And some things are happening here. Then when you are focused on your very, very small reality, you tend to think that everything else is wrong. I mean, you can be in a country like here in Mexico, when we had really relaxed measures, we don't have any problems with the cost of energy, and we don't have any problems. We have some inflation, okay. Yes, we have some inflation, but we don't have any problem by being, for example, unvaccinated. But because you are in that small echo chamber, then you tend to see the other problems, and then you see, no, in Mexico we are the worst country. And for me it is like, oh really, come on, how have you seen what is happening in other in other countries? So I wanted to ask you this other question related to realities in different countries. And the question is, it doesn't have to do anything with the side of a political side, of a color or a political perspective. It is just the fact that it happened this way. Your government, the White House said the last winter, it said literally, you, the unvaccinated, are looking at a winter of severe illness and death. And it was all over the world, that message. So I wanted to ask you, Stephanie, are you that kind of bad person? Do you deserve for your government to wish you something like that?
Well, of course not. But that is exactly a really good example of what I was talking about the toxicity in American culture and among our leaders. It is just disgraceful. And that kind of division has been just ramping up like crazy. And unfortunately, America is still like the worldwide bully, isn't it? Right? We kind of fancy ourselves the world police. And so we still have a lot of power around the world. And when American leadership goes south, that impacts so many other countries in so many negative ways. So it's I'm not even sure where to start on that. I could go off on a big tangent. But I also think that it's not just America. There has been this weird push among all the Western nations to try to clamp down on civil liberties, to clamp down on dissent, to stop free speech under the name of making you safer. We're going to protect you by censoring you, is kind of this weird message that they have. And this isn't just being put forward by the United States, but it's been a big thing, big problem in Canada, big problem with Europe, UK, Australia, of course, we've seen all the videos from Australia, New Zealand. So all of these countries that used to be like, this is where you would go if you wanted to have freedom and free speech and live in a modern pluralistic society, we're terrible now. We're being run by malicious technocrats who are either just so caught up in pride that they think they know what's best, or they're actively evil. And I think a lot of your listeners will probably just think, oh, they're actively evil. I kind of waffle as to whether they actually think that they're doing the right thing, but that the end result is evil, or does it really matter? The end result is not good. So I'm not sure exactly how we got here, and I'm not sure how to get out of it. So anyway, maybe you have another question.
No, but that is really important, because yes, I mean, the echo chambers of of many people in the places where they have had the most liberties, it is that they don't think that these kind of things about suppressing your freedoms are happening in other countries. They even don't believe that. They say like, oh, come on, in Australia they don't have kind of the real version of concentration camps. Or no, the police are not getting you to jail because you are not vaccinated. No, that is not happening. Or no, are you telling me that someone is canceling your bank account because you are dissenting something, you are saying something different that what the government narrative is? No, that can be happening. And one is saying, oh, okay, yes, believe me, that is happening. But what they see in the news, what they see with their social network, it is kind of the opposite. Everyone is vaccinated, everyone is living their life normal, everyone is still wearing one mask or two masks, or some people it is still wearing 3 masks and for feeling protected. But they don't know what is happening all around the world. So just to be finishing this episode, and what would you say, Stephanie, related to health, because one of the main purposes of this podcast it is that we want to share how to be healthier, we want to share how to be more human, we want to share how to be more united. So what would you suggest to other people who have taken this decision of taking the different path, of being the different ones, of being the outliers in some sense, and so to increase this, I mean, maybe a sense of that we are a worldwide family, we are a worldwide group of people, we are not alone. What would you say to all these guys who still do not dare to speak out and to say openly, I didn't take the jab?
Well, I think we should try to be welcoming, and by welcoming, let's not be as toxic and divisive or divisive as I was just mentioning about the United States, where you have to be, left or right or this or that. I'm tired of it. There's a lot of people who did take the jab and regret it and are scared to death because they now read all these frightening stories about what might happen to them. And I think we need to open our tent up to anybody who is concerned about medical freedom and authoritarianism and censorship. And so if that means that there's somebody who maybe they're getting all their jabs and their boosters, but they still support not having vaccine mandates, and they still support people being able to have the freedom to choose what gets put in their bodies, I don't think we should be wagging our finger at them and if somebody has had a vaccine injury, I don't think we should be saying, well, that's all your fault, you took the jab, and making it worse for them. I have seen some people reporting that. I think that doesn't make our side look much better, does it? We should be helping those people. We should be giving them hope that if there is some sort of damage that's been happening because of these mRNA shots, we're going to find a way to try to fix it. Or at least mitigate it. And I think we can do that through holistic methods and healthy lifestyles. There are already people who have come up with protocols for people who've had vaccination injuries, people who have talked about ways to mitigate spike protein damage, for example, the fennel or the pine needle tea or whatnot. So I think we should focus on those types of, trying to help the people who might have been hurt by these new vaccine technology should be one of our focuses. I should be focused on it more than I have been. I'm just not even sure where to start, but that would probably what I think we should definitely focus on.
Oh, thank you. I think that is a great way of ending this episode, Stephanie, because yes, our message it is simple. It is, we exist, we are here, we are healthy. Yes, I also believe I've been, my wife, my family, I have a family, everyone is unvaccinated, my parents, my sister, her boyfriend, a lot of friends here, because we had that fortune here. Almost nothing happened if you didn't take the jab. Even our government here protected us. If in your company someone your employer required you to take the jab, you could denounce him on the Federal Agency for Labor here. So we had that benefit here, but yes, we are here and we are okay, and we don't want to be the ones who are putting more separation or division between humanity. Thank you, Stephanie. It's been great having you here. We are going to put information on your Substack. Please follow Stephanie, and hope to have another time to talk more about Stephanie. It's been great talking to you.
Nice talking to you too.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.